Alright. Alright, so my interpretation of what happened at Harper's Ferry the other day, it's kind of trippy. It's kind of trippy. So, I mean, we kind of picked it up right from the get-go, and I can't wait to be able to review the material, you know, that we took that day, because I'm sure there's a lot of indications of what was going on that day. But I'm going to just pick it up at that point that we were in that building there. I think it was the John Brown building, if I'm not mistaken, right? When we walked in, and I think one of the first things that we encountered was this noise, right? It was like an alarm.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Good. And it was like
the alarm was sounded.
Remember, we were kind of thinking with the numbers or something like that, as if it was some type of time machine or something like that. And that's
the looking glass.
The looking glass. It was like we were entering the looking glass, and we were programming or reprogramming or whatever. And it did seem like there was this conversion of timelines that were happening, like something that had come full circle. And I had always said to other people that I've spoken about this process was it was almost like something had to be neutralized. It was like almost like as if a very evil thing needed to be neutralized, that it needed to be transcended and come full circle with to even it out. And this whole process of reversing the inversion, you know, how everything's been inverted and how everything has kind of been being opposed with the same energy forces and flipping it on itself so that it's neutralized and it doesn't have any power over us anymore, you know. And that's kind of like what this entire experience has kind of been like for me. It was a mission to carry out a very wrong thing that was done to a good man that has been used throughout history and flipped and misinterpreted and used, and the story of his life was used to create a battle hymn of our country in which people don't even know. It's like they sing this song and they don't even know the story behind it. They don't know the truth of it. And it was like something needed to be done in an etheric way to be able to neutralize that so that it can come full circle and the truth can be allowed to be told for the first time in American history, you know. And I don't know how else to explain it other than the fact that either I am an extension of that energy of John Brown, or I chose in this lifetime, due to the energetic signature of my name that gravitated me to the life of this man, and I decided to take it upon myself to do this in honor of John Brown. You know, not quite sure, you know, what it is. And it's kind of a spooky thing to deny the whole story about some of the things that have happened, as if it is. Sometimes I feel like, yes, I am the extension of this man's energy, and that we have come back at this time in history, and not just myself, but many of the sons and daughters of the revolution in history, to come back at this time, because that was our missions, and we know what's at stake, and that this country is at stake, and we've all been here before. We've all been a part of America's history, and that's why we are here now, to pick up and carry that mantle on. And I've heard it from a lot of people that they feel like they've been through this before, you know. Some may be new souls, some may be old souls, who knows. But I can tell you my perception of what happened at Harper's Ferry, that room, and I was telling you guys that the two of you were left, and it was if I was telling you and explaining to you how it all had been condensed down to a special operations. And the two of you were the last ones there. It was like everything had been whittled down to just the three of us. And there was a specific a mission that needed to be carried out at that particular point in time. And the two of you were fulfilling that mission with John Brown, with the spirit of John Brown. And then there was something that you were contributing to at that time, and then you turned and you walked away, and then it came down to just you and I. And you were the last one. And when we walked out of that building, something happened.
Before we walked out,
That's right.
we could
before
feel
we
it.
walked
I mean,
out.
I could feel it, and I'm thinking to myself, not where are we, but when are we? That was my first question to you.
Yeah.
You know?
When are we?
Because
Yeah.
it felt like we had been somewhere for a really long time.
It did. It did. It's like by the time we got out and we're walking up and I'm asking where are the others, and you said they've been gone a little while, and you said something that was kind of cracked me up. He says she's looking for me. Well, that's kind of a first.
Yeah.
Is that kind of true?
Yes.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then he had this puzzled look on his face. I had my puzzled look, but I just kind of felt as though at that point that I had been rescued. And I think what happened was at the final phase of this rescue mission to rescue John Brown on this mission that he had been on for over 150 years to come back in this timeline and to anchor this new timeline in American history. And you, as a special op that you are, came down to the sole individual that was responsible for the team that was sent to rescue John Brown, rescue the spirit and soul of John Brown, and be one of the final anchors and rescuers of the spiritual special ops, to complete this timeline by rescuing me and coming kind of like at that point it was like our re-entry into this timeline. Like it was almost as if you went through another timeline to get me. And you led this mission, it's like, and you were the final one, and it's like we walked out and we're walking up the street, and it's like we're back in this timeline. That's what it felt like.
Yeah. No, we were there, and we were talking the whole time, coming through it and coming out of it.
Yeah.
And I don't think we realized what we were in at the time.
Not at the time. It was,
it
was a little discombobulating. And I remember walking out of the building and hearing that timer going off, the alarm going off.
Right.
And he was behind me, you know what I mean? It was almost like I had to get out
It's almost
first.
time.
It was almost, it was closing. It was all going. The beeper's going off. You're behind me, making sure that I got out the door before you.
Right.
It's like you weren't going to walk out the door first.
Right.
You were going to make sure that, I got out and you were going to be the last one out. And it was just, I can't, that's about the best that I could explain and interpret, And from that part kind of leads me back to kind of our role with you and I, who we're at now, And it's almost as if, like, I'm back into that dream state, and I'm dead, and you're angels, and you're sitting here with your, compound during the middle of this storm, and you're sitting here on this other end with your RV and a trip across the country, which is basically fulfilling something that I've already put out within the last month or two, and saying that when the time came, I'm just waiting for it to come, and I'm going on this trip, and it's going to be the spirit of America, and I'm going to go on to this mission across the country, and I've got things to do, and I've got things I want to talk about to people, and that was that kind of like the reminder of your talking with your friend there, because that's what it's going to be like. That's what it's been like, when I went to New York and I came out of my hole to go to New York and time down in Washington, D.C. It's an endless interaction of stream of reconnecting with information and restoring that spirit. One of the things I had said to his friend on the phone, I hadn't even met him before, it just seemed right, man. It's like, not only are we rebuilding and restoring the republic, but we're also restoring the spirit of this republic.
Yeah.
And it's being restored in our interactions and our, as patriots, and that common bond, that like-mindedness. And we're coming together again instead of being divided, and we're healing because of this bond, and like minds, and love
Mhm.
for each other in this country, and it's showing, in our actions, and it's healing not just ourselves, but it's healing this nation. And, so that's where I'm at. It's kind of dawned on me, man, that whenever the time allows us to safely cross this country, I'm crossing this country, no matter what. And it doesn't. If this is the opportunity to do that, I'll get to the southeast when it's time. But the opportunity is being presented now. It's like you're almost like an angel, and you're sitting there saying, "Well, you want it to go, right? Well, here I am. What the hell, let's do it." But you got your commitments maybe in Washington and in Oregon or whatever it is, and if it's a guide to that point, and then it's up to me to continue the mission, then I'll continue the mission, and you've done your job, and there won't be any need to, for judgment or guilt at that point, because you fulfilled the mission, man. You were part of this mission that was probably one of the most incredible missions. I don't really give a damn what anyone ever thinks of this. You know what I mean? It's true in my world. It may not be true in your world, or it may be true, and it's up to each and every one of you to embrace that.
Right.
And you may not ever be able to explain it to anybody else, and if anything, it'll make a damn good story.
It's interesting you say that, because I've always been one that if I can visualize it, I can understand it better. And I tell people a lot that I see when I am thinking of looking into my brain, I see it as this massive library with all these books on the shelf. And there's some that I've had to close.
Right.
Those books are done. They're put away on the shelf. I have some that are open on the table, several, and there's some I've yet to get to. And I was thinking earlier this morning when I was in the bedroom by myself, and I was thinking, just reflecting back on this last several days, and one of my favorite books is The Stand, by Stephen King. And I think because there's so much of it that gives me that visual of different things that I believe.
Right.
I believe that there's going to come a time, and I've believed this for a long, long time, when people are going to have to take a stand, right? For different reasons, whether it's political, religious, whatever. They're going to have to take a stand. And what you do in that moment tells a lot about who you are, right? And I feel like that this last week has been very much led us to that, as far as, Wayne and I, how everything lined up for us to be able to go when there was no way I was going to go. I couldn't go. And then when the doors started opening, and we've learned that when that happens, you're better to go with it.
Right.
You don't fight it.
Yeah.
Right, and you don't have to explain it. You just know you've got to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
You just allow it.
And this kind of might help you realize how you had to follow that, and it makes sense in that way.
And while we were there and meeting with you all and meeting everybody we met, if you look at that, at this group that we've come together as, you're right. Everybody has whittled away. You've got this tight-knit group that's very close around you to support you and to be there for you in whatever you need, as well as
really
supporting each other.
Right. Sure.
And for us to be able to immediately, without question, saying, absolutely, you guys come with us. That was all played out to be that way for a reason.
It really was. It really is. The timing is just impeccable. It's really helped to be able to alleviate the fear, because that is what keeps us back from making that stand, is the fear. What if? What if? And I just keep getting tapped back into that place that I explained to you the other day, where it's almost like I'm at peace. And I have this knowing and this trust that no matter what, everything's going to be okay. Enjoy it. Have fun with it, you know. It's like, I have a lot of fun with you, you know, and it's like, it could be an incredible experience, just, you know, even just leaving here and then crossing the country whenever it's right. It's just, but at the same time, there's a mission involved. I know what that mission is. And it's going to be a little bit different. You know, by the time that we're safely ready to be able to do this, man, we're going to be flipping. And we're going to be embracing that flip side now. We've come out the other end.
Yes.
The timeline's been merged. Our focus isn't going to so much be on waking people up, because people are going to see it now. They're not going to have to need that much anymore. I'm kind of, when things happen on Facebook and I get censored, there's a reason for that, for me. Because, you know, and it was just time. It was time to step back, reevaluate, let the information, that my feed now has been established. There's the same amount of information that's coming through that feed. I don't have to put it there anymore, because it's established and everyone's gravitating to people who are reaching for that. And that's just one feed out of thousands, you know. Let it go, man. Now it's time to like shift and move on to the next thing. And the next thing isn't so much about having to convince others. It's going to be being there in a supportive role, and a role to help people through the other side now. Because we've been pushing and pushing and pushing, and now we're going to be pulling. You know, it's like, here's my hands. They're going to reach out for it, and they're going to want to know. And people are going to come out of the woodwork. You're going to be a famous person. You're going to be a hero. And you're going to be recognized for such. And people are going to be drawn to you. And they're going to want to know. They're going to want to know, you know, what's in it for them. You're going to want to know your experience for it, and you're going to share it, and you're going to be there for them. You know, we're all rocks in this anchor, and we're going to be there on the flip side as much as we've led the way. We're going to be to play that role of support. And
they're going to have a lot of confusion.
There is. There's going to be a lot of confusion, and not just that, too, but we need to ensure that this never happens again. And so everyone's going to need to know the truth. And that truth was going to be our story to tell. We're going to be telling the greatest story ever told. You know? And that's going to be the flip side of my mission. You know, this whole Spirit of America thing, it begins from this moment on, westward, but it's also going to go from westward to eastward again. Regardless of whether or not you decide to, like, you know, go back east, I'm going, and it's like, you know, it could be ours to embrace and do this Spirit of America tour, and it's almost going to probably be like, I don't know, it's going to be on our own parade.
That's what it looks like when I'm driving down the road. Either a circus or a parade.
Yeah, exactly. The circus is coming to town, man, and we're going to be leading it, and people are going to want to know. And,
another thing that's interesting about the whole unfolding at the Armory, John Brown's Armory, was that while we're looking at all the history and facts of how, and learning from you about how John Brown molded his Special 22 Army, and as you were talking about the narrowing down of people at the end, it's beautiful to think that that concept, how we talk about how history repeats itself, or connecting the circuit, is you had determined the 21st century John Brown's Army at that point to go forward. And we're not 22, but
it's almost like a sacred geometry thing. That's an extension of this thing that I've been